Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And today I'll be reviewing of the 2025 film from last year, of the film called Roofman. The Roofman, starring Channing Tatum. And he plays this guy who is this real life guy because it's a film that's based on a true story about this guy who but the guy's name is Jeffrey Manchester. This is a guy who apparently he robbed like over 40 McDonald's, and then which part of why this film made it a little bit intriguing for me, because after all that he escapes from prison, and for a good chunk of the movie he is hiding out basically all the time, living in a Toys R Us. And now I thought like that why I saw a trailer for this was kind of a little bit interesting, because hey, he's hiding in a Toys R Us because hey, I'm sure of course I've been to Toys R Us a lot of times back when I was a kid, right? Before they closed down, because I don't think Toys R Us I don't think Toys R Us is no longer around anymore, sad to say though, but well, not right, but I'm sure. No, I don't think there is no more Toys R Us stores anymore. So, but that's why I got intrigued. He's like, hey, it's Toys R Us. I haven't seen a Toys R Us in years, you know. But yeah, this story, this is with this guy in real life named Jeffrey Manchester, who I guess he was an army vet, and he committed these crimes. Well, the thing is though, the guy is not really a bad guy, because like the times he would rob these McDonald's, like he treated like the employees kindly, So it's like, hey, just like here, I'm gonna be robbing though, but he didn't hurt anybody. He will lock them up like in the freezer and stuff, right? He's like, here, get and give them their coats, so they can stay warm, try to stay warm. So the guy never not meant any harm. He treated the people kindly. So, but that was like the story that I thought was kind of interesting though. And the guy and the real life guy is played by Channing Tatum, who I like. Firstly, I liked him when he played Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I liked it. I liked him in White House. I liked him in White House Down. And at first, when I first saw him, of course, when he was like in his earliest career, when he started in Step Up, but through the years, like, Channing Tatum, I don't mind. And I did the films I didn't care for. I mean, I didn't care about fighting, I of course I didn't like the GI Joe film, because I think even Channing Tatum didn't like the GI Joe film itself, which I don't blame him though. But even I think that the reason why he didn't like doing the GI Joe, that's why he wanted to get his character killed off early in the sequel, Rise of the Cobra. So, but I am blaming him though. So, um, but here I think Channing Tatum did a good job as Jeffrey Manchester. I think also he did a really good job. And among other cast members, you got Kirsten Dunst, of course known for playing Mary Jane from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. Of course, I know when she was a child actor starring in Jumanji, or even before that when she was even much more of a little girl when she was in the film Interview with the Vampire with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. So yeah, but she was a childhood actor from that film and Jumanji. So, but of course, like I said, got more fame when starring in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. But I liked her but I also liked her in this like kind of like a comedy drama with Jim Carrey called Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. I liked that film. I think that was A little bit good for Jim Carrey. A little bit doing a little bit of a drama with comedy though as well. So yeah, The Eternal Sunshine with of Spotless Mind. I thought that was a good film. So I don't mind Kirsten Dunst. I'm just not really I'm not really big on her Mary Jane. I'm not really big on her Mary Jane from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trailer. I'm really not. I know people will get offended. Oh, but she's good looking in that movie. Yeah, I know. But there's a lot more to that though. I'm just not really big on Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. That's what I'm saying. And so in the story, so as the story goes, like I said, well, the film did get positive reviews from critics. Has like an 87% of Rotten Tomatoes. And the film made some money. Cost about what 19 million, made about 23 million in the U.S. and like worldwide about 34 million. So it did make a little bit of money, just wasn't that big of a hit, despite getting the critical praise. So, but like I said, basically the story goes pretty much what I explained. Like he's a guy who's like robbing these McDonald's, and but eventually he does get caught at his daughter's birthday party. And when he gets caught, his wife, no ex-wife, doesn't want his kids contacting him anymore. And so when he escapes, though, and when he does escape, where he tries to find a place to hide, and it's inside of a Toys R Us. And so, and I think he's lived there for about 6 months, hiding there for 6 months. And oh, well, the reason why the film is called Roofman because they nicknamed him that because he always enters through use the same method of entry through the roof of all these McDonald's. So that's why, hence they nickname him Roofman. So, but it is the same thing. We enters the Toys R Us, and so the place where he pretty much hides is like it's not a crawl space, but it's like the sections where the bicycles are, right? And there's like a little in between open crawl space in between like the um between the bicycle set in this bicycle section. Basically, he's hiding in plain sight, basically. But that's pretty much where he hides there, and from then he's like doing little things, like he sets up a little makeshift security system, for the cameras, as he's watching, and although to me, and also like what made it fascinating because, hey, if it was me, I would like to live in a Toys R Us. I could pretty much do anything I want, do anything I want. Have the keys to basically have the keys of the kingdom to yourself, but without having the keys though. I can play with these toys if I wanted to, or but and then of course, you see me eating on candy, but that's not good for his teeth though. And he does like little things where we take care of like dentistry and stuff like that, where he takes like some video games and he goes to like a pawn shop and like sells them. Look at this. And or he does a couple of good things, with for like where he said he plays with some Xbox or PlayStation 2 games, which that's another piece of nostalgia thing for me because as I'm one of the few guys I don't play updated video games of today because first of all I work too much. I don't have time to play video games anyway, but I'm just not into all the update on video games. I've always been the old fashioned guy because I still play my Nintendo games, Nintendo 64 or PlayStation 2. Just the video consoles of that time. So and it's like okay, Xbox, okay, and then and PlayStation 2 games. That's nice to see. And although it would change the character of the real life guy though, but still it's like you know how his kids are trying to contemplate his ex-wife doesn't want him to let him though. Although it could, to be perfectly fair, he did kind of put this on himself by doing all this stuff, right? I mean, maybe he chose not to do. She could have chose not to do this stuff though, but in a sense though, he did kind of bring this onto himself though, for him not to have his kids see him anymore and get divorced and all that stuff. I'm just like, well, you do kind of bring that on yourself though, right? By doing these though. But he's not like the brightest criminal, so. And then for and also a good chunk of it, like when he's talking with Kirsten Dunst, developing a bit of a romance between them. Or there are times when there's because they do mention in dialogue where they notice like how where some video games are missing because he's taking them and selling them, right. And Peter Dinklage, yeah, Peter Dinklage, which I'm not really big on as an actor. It's another guy. I mean, of course, the reason some of those things he says, stupid things though, but I'm like, here's a little idiot, So I'm not really big on the actor himself, Peter Dinklage, but I thought he was okay here, tolerable. He's the guy who owns the Toys R Us. And one of the things you saw in the trailer when he sees Channing Tatum, shock surprise, and he gets that pink, or yeah, that the pink dust sprayed on him. And so, and the whole lot of this, like the gigs and stuff, right? And one of the I would say pretty much the funniest scene, in the movie when he's kind of like going a little bit crazy, right? And then he gets involved with these Tickle Me Elmos, and he starts punching, beating the crap out of these Tickle Me Elmos, which that was kind of easily the funniest thing of the movie for me. Tickle Me Elmo, just because there was a time when those things when if anyone remembers from those times, Tickle Me Elmo was the popular toy to your kids, Tickle Me Elmo. You're tickling Elmo. Yeah, I remember a time when Tickle Me Elmo was like the hot toy to get. I think this takes place during like the late '90s. I think late 1990s. So that was it. That was like the funniest part because he started to go a little bit crazy, and he sees the Tickle Me Elmos. He starts beating the crap out of him. And you do get to get more like a little bit of the romance between him and Kirsten Dunst. And now, like I said, he's not the smartest criminal though, but you think it wouldn't happen again though, but because the time one thing leads to another, where Kirsten Dunst does officially we does recognize him as the Roofman, right? The guy who escaped from prison. Now it was kind of like you say it was like an entrapment in a way because, like I said, he did bring this upon himself for doing this stuff in the first place. But I did kill I do even though he did this to himself, I do at the same time feel sorry for the guy. Even though he did bring this upon himself though, but at the same time did feel kind of sorry for the guy, where he was gonna meet with Kirsten Dunst and her because she also has kids too as well. Show up there with balloons, and the police get him, and he is sentenced back to prison for like 40 years. And I do think he will get out eventually. I think I looked it up. I think he's going to be set to be released in December of 2036. So I think he'll be in his 60s when he gets out. So yeah. So I think he's gonna get out of prison in 2036 in December. But even then, though, it's always like you serve that length of you're that long of a prison sentence, and we do get out though. Where are you gonna go though, right? I mean, where you gonna find a place to live and all that stuff, right? But that's the what's upon right afterwards, though. But I think that when he gets caught, at least I do feel kind of felt sorry for him because when Kirsten Dunst, he first recognized him that he was the Roofman, she didn't say anything. And after when he gets arrested, she does feel bad for him, but like I say, because he's a criminal who's a robber though. So I mean, I understand for what she was doing though, but at the same time, I felt bad. I felt bad at the same. I felt bad at the same time. I guess there was also text where he said he tried to escape like two more times. I think he did because it was like 2009 and 2017. So, but he's gonna be eligible for parole to get out in December 2036 though. And then you see like then you show it shows you like the real life footage photos with of the real life of Jeffrey Manchester and the real life of people Kirsten Dunst's character and the some other people that were involved with him. So you do see like because when at the time when it says based on a true story, you're always skeptical if it's all this stuff is really true or not. Like if it shows the real life footage though of the actual person, then yeah, okay. Like for instance, like Sully, right? We all know like the film that Clint Eastwood directed, starring Tom Hanks. You do know it's based on a true story because it actually happened. It was on the news, right? Of the pilot who landed and saved the people by landing in the Hudson River. So you know that's a real, like I say, it's based on a real story because not only because you see the real life people and the passengers and the crew of that flight, right? Because during the ending of that, it showed the real life people. So you do know that this is not a fake true story, right? When it shows the actual footage of the people, this is based on a real life event, So, but overall, though, yeah, not much. I don't have too many issues with the movie. I don't, but I will say it was a very interesting film itself. And the guy who directed this film, this is the guy who directed Blue Valentine. And I guess it was called The Place Beyond the Pines, which I have not seen that. I have not seen that film, Place Beyond the Pines. I don't think I saw Blue Valentine either. So, but this is the guy. But he directed those films, and then he went to direct this film. But I thought he did fine. I would say a pretty decent job with the movie. Oh, but Channing Tatum, he was the star of the movie, and he did a good job. I think he did pretty much a good job with the movie. Kirsten Dunst, I thought she did good for what she had to do. And even though I don't like Peter Dinklage. I think he was okay, tolerable in the movie. So, like I said, I'm not really, I'm not really a fan of him as an actor. So, the one thing I thought was one of the memorable things with Peter Dinklage was an Elf, which I'm not big on that film either. Which I already did that film already, but for one of the things I recognized him was when he beat the crap out of Will Ferrell, right, by calling him an elf. Say that again. I dare you to say it. You're an elf. I'm not big on Elf the movie either, but you can check that out on my channel. So go type in Elf. But I thought Roofman was a, I have the I thought Roofman was a pretty decent movie. Like I said, the whole idea, not only because the other guy who robbed McDonald's multiple times, different locations, not the same store though. But he eventually gets to hide out in a Toys R Us. I mean, that kind of was kind of like if you ever dream one of those, hey, if you try like not rob a place, but live at this place and you have the whole place yourself. Imagine how much fun you would have. I would. I mean, if I went to a place like, hey, I get to play with all these toys. If it was me, if I was like years ago, if I was living hiding in a Toys R Us, I would play with all the Thomas Tank Trains, which I had those collect. I grew up playing with those toys, those Thomas the Tank the wooden toys. Yeah, I would definitely play with those, and And it was though, hey, I have the whole place all to myself, keys to the kingdom, but without the keys, of course. So, but overall, that was it was a pretty good movie, I would say. But I definitely why you see the critics liked it, and now let's see what the why how it's based on the real story though, and especially when you see the real life footage of these people. So but overall, now will this make it my top 10 films? Well, of course, I think it probably would be, since I already did my list of the 6 films I did, so but would it be worthy enough to put in my top 10 list? Of course it would, because I think Channing Tatum did a good job, and I like the whole idea, the premise of the story, and just like how the guy, yes, the guy wasn't the smartest criminal though. You consider him like a dumb criminal, but but the guy never meant any harm. He was like, he treated like the McDonald's people like kindly, like said when he puts them in the freezer, hey, give them their coats so they would stay warm. Here you go. So the guy was never like never a violent guy. He's this guy just wanted the money, never wanted to hurt nobody, and be out of there, And he was like coming through the roof, hence his nickname Roofman. So yeah, I think the film was a pretty decent movie. I think it was, and would have been worthy of my top 10. Now it would not be in my top 6 though, but I would be higher up if I wanted to. So, but overall, I liked Roofman. So with that said and done, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next movie review, and we'll see you next time. Later.